From the outset, I want to state that the Council as a body has not yet determined whether this deal is a good deal or not a good deal for the city, because it is clear from the Council's first hearing and the manner of which the deal was rolled out that this was a secretive process, intentionally structured to avoid a substantive public review in advance of any commitments being made. They did this before we were able to determine an additional need for school seats, and before we looked at additional congestion on the 7 line, and before there were any significant agreements from Amazon about what they would be providing to support their move to the city on a scale that one would expect to see from one of the world's most valuable companies owned by one of the world's richest people.
Given the size of this deal, the people of the city of New York deserve straightforward facts without the use of misleading numbers. Will Amazon's arrival actually benefit local residents or simply exacerbate existing structural inequities?
Mr. Hausman, you keep citing a $27 billion number. You did it in the previous hearing as well. I want to know where you got that number.
The city and the state released an economic impact study.
Who paid for that study?
I'm not aware of that information.
Well, if you're citing a study of $27 billion, we should know who paid for the study. I believe the city and the state paid for that study, and the city and state negotiated this deal. It's not an independent study. So there have been independent studies that have come out in the last couple of months, and those independent studies have not been in line with the number that keeps being repeated here today, which is the 9-to-1 return and $27 billion. So I think it's important that at the outset of this hearing, we establish the facts related to who conducted that study. And if we're going to operate off of certain numbers, I think we should operate factually off those numbers. So this looks very confusing, but it's actually very important, and it's likely what the study that you're citing should have looked at. But the study that you're citing did not look at this. So we have, of course, repeatedly heard numbers from the administration and from Amazon defending the deal and saying it will generate $27 billion and it will have a 9-to-1 benefit cost ratio, that the deal will pay for itself. However, while these estimates, which come from EDC and ESD, do a really good job at looking at the benefits of Amazon coming to town, the cost side of the analysis is not part of the study that you released. Research shows that between 3.4% and 23.4% of investment, any investment, that receives a tax incentive are actually motivated by the investment. So sometimes it's 3% are motivated by the investment, sometimes it's up to 23%. We need to consider how many of these jobs would have come here even without these financial incentives. That wasn't looked at in the study. Displacement of businesses. The subsidies will give Amazon a competitive advantage over other businesses in the city, other small businesses in the area, and it will raise the cost for their existing New York City competitors, potentially leading to competitors having to downsize. Why subsidize one company over another? That goes into the conversation we have to have about monopolies and about gaining too much market share. A multiplier effect. Amazon hires people, those people spend money, and that creates a positive indirect effect in terms of more jobs, higher wages, and increased tax revenue. That's what you all keep citing, what I just read. That's a benefit, so the administration did do a good job in looking at those potential benefits. But ESD estimates that the deal will lead to an additional 130,000 people coming to New York City. That's what the study said. What are the costs, both capital and expense, of providing these services to new residents? Is the extra revenue enough to cover those costs? That comprehensive analysis was not taken into account. Is that correct? In the study that keeps being cited, those factors that I just laid out, was that looked at in the City and State Commission study?
Again, the city added more than 100,000 people between 2014 and 2017. If we can't manage a population change of a few thousand people in a city of 8.6 million, then the government isn't doing its basic job, which is to provide services to all of our citizens.
Did you look at the costs that I mentioned?
As we always do, we'll be conducting a comprehensive economic impact analysis or environmental impact analysis, which will be looking at these issues as we always do.
So it hasn't been done yet. We announced a deal, and we're celebrating a deal, before the city looked at the costs of the deal?
We looked at all of those factors.
Okay, where? Where's the document that shows me you looked at that?
It talks about some costs and some benefits.
Can you please share with me what the impact will be on the housing market, on the subways, on the need for firehouses, and on the need for more schools? Your initial analysis, can you tell me the impact on those things?
What we did as a part of this agreement was we effectively swapped what was going to be a plan for housing for a plan for commercial space. And that was in response to what was the single overriding concern from members of the community, which was that they were excited about the open space, they were excited about the schools, they were excited about the commercial space, but they were concerned about the housing and its impacts on the infrastructure. So we believe that this will be lower impact on infrastructure in Long Island City because it's complementary to existing infrastructure.
What research do you have to back that up?
We will be doing a comprehensive
You will be
environmental
doing, you haven't done it yet.
As you've pointed out, it's important to work with the community to identify the specific infrastructure.
But that's typically what ULURP is for.
Yeah,
You
and
go
this-
through a process to actually work with the community and to negotiate something. Instead, you are cutting out the formal review process and saying that you yourselves will work with the community, cutting out the process that's been set up for half a century that's used to work with the community. Mr. Hausman, you mentioned that there are 5,000 employees that are currently working here in New York City for Amazon. Is that correct?
Yes.
How many of those employees are unionized?
None, sir.
None. Do you, would you be open, I asked this at the previous hearing and I didn't get a straight answer, since you're getting potentially over $3 billion in some level of incentive or direct subsidy from the city and the state, indirect or direct, would you agree to neutrality if workers at Amazon wanted to unionize?
Speaker, just to clarify, the incentives are a post-performance. We only receive those incentives after we create the jobs, after we maintain the jobs. And after
I understand
we do
that.
the
Would
investment.
you
Wanna
be
very
okay
clear
with
about
agreeing
that.
to neutrality so that workers can unionize?
No, sir. We respect an employee's.
You wouldn't agree to that?
Correct, sir. We would not.
Does the de Blasio administration feel comfortable with Amazon not agreeing to be neutral as it relates to organizing people if they want to be unionized?
You know, first and foremost, you know, the mayor is an enormous supporter of union rights in this city.
So you disagree with Amazon's position that they just stated?
We, as you're aware, this is a conversation about the Amazon's headquarters. As a part of that conversation, we worked out an agreement with the company to work for the first time with a historic agreement with the building service workers.
Not all,
as well as-
not all unions. You picked a couple of unions. So some workers were valued and other workers were not valued.
we focused
so
on
you're
the
pitting
unions
some workers against other workers, which isn't right. So do you agree with what Mr. Hausman just said about not supporting neutrality?
We focused on the jobs at the site that we were discussing with the company, which was the headquarters site, and we emphasized to them repeatedly that it was critical that they work with the unions that were relevant for that site.
Did you ask for neutrality? Was that part of the negotiation?
What we emphasized.
Was that part of any negotiation?
What we emphasized to them that this union rights were critical to us, and that we have very strong laws in the city, and that the Department of Consumer Affairs and Worker Protection.
Did you ask for neutrality or not ask for neutrality?
We discussed our expectations
Did
that they
you
would work
ask
with
for
unions.
neutrality or not ask for neutrality? It sounds like you didn't.
We asked for union deals.
That's not neutrality. Okay, thank you for answering the question. Any of, Mr. Hausman, any of those 5,000 jobs, are any of those people working on programs associated with the work that Amazon does with ICE?
Amazon has a strong record on immigration rights. We have fought the Trump travel ban. We have litigated for DACA reforms. We have lobbied for Dreamer protections and lobbied for green card reforms. I'm very proud of the record that we have on immigration issues.
But do you know that ICE uses some of your software to round up and deport people?
Speaker,
Are you comfortable with that?
Speaker, that is not.
That's not accurate?
That is not what we have said. We cannot disclose who our customers or our potential customers are without their permission.
You feel
In
totally
order for a
comfortable with how
customer-
ICE uses what you work with them?
Again, Speaker, we're not able to talk about who our customers or potential customers are without their permissions. In order to use this technology, customers must agree to our terms, and our terms prohibit any customers from using this technology for illegal conduct. And
So
that
if they
includes
violated that,
violations
would
of
you cancel
civil
the
or-
contract?
That includes violations of civil or constitutional rights. And if any customer, business or government, violates civil or constitutional rights using this technology, we will absolutely terminate that relationship.
Okay,
and
so
their
if
use
I
of
get
that
you some
technology.
examples of ICE doing that after this hearing, if they are a potential customer, since you won't say they're a customer, even though we know they're a customer, you'll potentially cancel the contract?
Again, Speaker, I will not talk about who our customers or potential customers are. However, if we receive any complaints at all about any illegal conduct, and that includes violation of civil or constitutional rights through the use of our technology, we will absolutely terminate that relationship and prohibit anyone from using that technology.
Forgive me for being skeptical. I just want to ask, what is the current public valuation of Amazon as a company? It's valued at what, about $1 trillion?
I don't know the exact figure. It's lower than that.
It's close to $1 trillion though, right?
It's something like that.
Something
yes,
like that.
sir. Yeah.
And the founder and CEO of the company, Mr. Bezos, is approximately worth about 150 to 160 billion dollars.
I'm not sure, sir.
But that's what you've read as well, right?
It's something in that range.
Yeah,
yes.
something in that range. So again, I asked this at the first hearing. Why do you need our money? We have 63,000 people sleeping in a homeless shelter tonight in New York City. We have subways that are falling apart. We have schools that aren't getting the money they deserve. We have public housing that is crumbling around us, not far from where Amazon wants to locate. Don't you think there's a better way for us to spend $3 billion than give it to your company, which is worth $1 trillion, and the founder of your company, which is the richest man in the world? Is there a better way to potentially spend the money? This seems like vulture, monopolistic capitalism at its worst.
We are, our focus is on creating the 25,000 jobs and investing over $3 billion in your city. And we look forward to you spending the revenues generated from our project, which have been estimated by a city and state study of over $27 billion.
And Speaker, I just must respectfully disagree with that characterization of this. We are about creating jobs here in Long Island City and New York City. These are good jobs that will pay an average of $150,000. We are in favor of the positive economic impact this project will bring to this city.
Well, the people in Seattle don't agree with that and how they felt they've been treated by you all. So you can say that here today before you're here, but city council members from Seattle traveled to New York City to warn us about your deceptive practices, promises that you make and break, and how you swallow up small businesses, how you attempt to water down local legislation, how you lobby local government, municipal government for your own means. So if we look at what you've done in Seattle, it doesn't add up to what you're doing here today. And you are in a union city. This is a city that was built by unions, a city that loves unions, a city that has the highest per capita of union jobs in the entire United States. And one of the first answers to your question today is, would you be neutral? You said no. That is not a way to come to our city, a city where 20% of people are living at or below the poverty line. So respectfully, that's not respect. We are living in a time and a society with huge economic inequality, with people like Mr. Bezos living at the top of the food chain, with Amazon being worth almost $1 trillion, and you have homeless people across the United States of America. You have people that are going hungry at night. You have public housing that is crumbling, and you don't support good union jobs. You're taking $3 billion in our money. So, Mr. Houseman, when you say respectfully, that is not the experience that policymakers and elected officials have had in the city of Seattle.
Speaker Johnson, if I could respond to a part of that comment that you just made. So we're focused on our headquarter project, which will again create the 25,000 jobs, invest over $3 billion. And as Mr. Patchett said here just a few moments ago, we're focused on working with the unions on that project. We have already had relationships with the trade unions. We're already committed to using 32BJ. So for this project, we are in fact committed to working with the unions.
How come you, okay, if you want to talk about that again, how come you won't agree to neutrality then? What's the reason why you won't agree to neutrality?
Speaker, we respect an employee's right to choose to join or to not join a union. We do firmly believe that the direct connection that we have between our employees and the open door policy is the most effective way to respond to the concerns of the workforce.
James, do you have any misgivings about this deal?
I feel very confident this is a good deal.
Do you
for
have
New York
any
City.
misgivings?
I have no misgivings about.
None. No misgivings.
I I think I'm very confident in the work
You don't
that
have a
we've done.
misgiving about what Mr. Hausman just said about not being neutral?
Oh, okay.
The administration doesn't have misgivings about that?
Look, I have many concerns. I don't agree with Amazon's position on everything without a doubt.
Do you have any misgivings about their work with ICE?
We, as a city, are a sanctuary city. You said it yourself. I agree with everything that you've said, which is that this city has to support immigrants' rights. That's why we worked with you to pass a law to ensure that no city resources can be used to address these issues. Look, if in fact it's true and people's rights are being violated by software that's being...
Sounds like you should have some misgivings, given what we know about Amazon.
The Council's research into Amazon's tax history yielded some great insight into the company's aggressive tax avoidance measures. The Institute of Taxation and Economic Policy reports that through various loopholes, Amazon essentially paid zero federal taxes on reported U.S. profits of $5.6 billion in 2017. In Europe, Amazon was investigated by the EU Commission for illegally obtained tax advantages in Luxembourg and ordered to pay 250 million euros in back taxes to the country. The chart on the screen shows the lengths to which Amazon went to avoid taxes in that case. Is it accurate that Amazon really did not pay any federal taxes in 2017? And if so, how was Amazon able to do that?
Chairman, I want to disagree and say that we do pay our taxes. In 2017, in particular, that was a year of heavy reinvestment back into our businesses. We spent billions and billions of dollars on fulfillment centers, and in that particular year, that reinvestment reduced the federal taxable income. In other years, we paid billions of dollars in taxes. And in regard to that particular ruling that you've identified, that was a case brought not against Amazon, but brought against Luxembourg, and it's currently being appealed.
No, it's exactly these types of schemes, I'll call them schemes, even the reinvestment that you are talking about, that concerns us, because it seems that large companies, corporations, always come up with these ways that they can avoid paying taxes, and they call it a reinvestment in the community or whatever. So it still is of major concern to us here that Amazon continues to do that operate in that type of way.
Well, Chairman, we've created over 250,000 jobs in the U.S. We pay taxes at the federal, state,
How much?
kind of local level, billions
How
of
much in
dollars.
taxes does Amazon pay?
Billions of dollars.
Billions?
Yes.
You don't have the exact
I
number?
don't have the exact number in front of me.
It would be good to get that. Okay, in some regards, Amazon does have a fairly decent reputation for some good pay and some strong benefits. For example, all full-time employees at Amazon do get up to 5 months of paid maternity leave, but this is also the company that was the center of a 2015 New York Times article that gave numerous examples of the stressful work conditions and high burnout rates of employees at the Seattle headquarters. A recent New York Post article highlighted workers at the Staten Island warehouse peeing in bottles because the only bathroom was far away and workers were told they were taking too much idle time. So is Amazon a pleasant place to work?
It definitely is, and I would encourage you to talk with some of the employees we have here. I would love for you to come to visit our Manhattan offices, to visit our Staten Island Fulfillment Center, and see.
So
for
why are the
yourself.
Staten Island employees fighting to form a union?
Well, sir, I don't believe that that's accurate. Our employees make $17 to $23 an hour at the Staten Island facility. They have world-class benefits, including medical and healthcare benefits on day one, access to our career choice educational programs. These are good jobs. And again, I would encourage you to come and talk to those employees yourself.
All right. Are any of your workers unionized?
No, sir.
Well, to be honest with you, I agree fully with the speaker's statements about this being a union town, and we definitely support the unionized workforce here in New York City, and really urge you to reconsider your position and your answer on that.
All workers should have the right to be in a union. All workers should have the right. You are too big. You are too big and too strong and too powerful. And the thing that's always been the equalizer for workers and working people are unions. and the ability to come together and form real power against people like Jeff Bezos. You have come here today unabashedly, unashamedly, and said no to the Speaker's question. We're not neutral. We do not want our Amazon workers to be union. And it is wrong to hide behind the deal with 32BJ and the building trades and say somehow this is a pro-union deal. It's not. It's a union-busting deal from the beginning. There is an opt-out clause here, right? What is the opt-out clause? Isn't it that both of you, both sides, all sides, have 60 days in writing to notify the other partner that the deal is off? Is that true? What is the nature of the opt-out clause in this deal?
First of all, council member, I just want to emphasize, we're not making false distinctions here. We're focusing on the project that's before us, which we think is going to create up to 40,000 jobs. That's why we think this is an important deal. That being said, you're right, the MOU itself is non-binding. It means there's a component of it that asks us to notify the other party and give them 60 days notice if we're not proceeding, but there's nothing binding about the MOU in the first place. It's an initial document. This is a good deal for the city. It's more than $13.5 billion in tax revenue. I know you had concerns about the previous plans for these sites as well. I think we're excited about the opportunity this brings to diversify our tech workforce, to bring more jobs to the residents of Queens and throughout the city. It's an incredible opportunity, so we're not walking away from this, the biggest economic development jobs creator of our lifetimes.
I understand your position on that. The question, though, is, does the mayor of the city of New York today have the ability to say to Amazon that so long as you work with ICE and so long as you remain anti-union, we will revoke and renege on this agreement at this point? That's the question. I understand how you feel about the deal and that you think it's the greatest thing that's ever happened. But I'm asking a very simple question, which is, can the mayor right now, today, say to Amazon that as long as you work with ICE, that you can't have a sanctuary city where we support the work of ICE, and you can't have a union town that has one of the largest corporations in the world come here today and say flat out, with no apologies whatsoever, no, we're not going to remain neutral. We don't want Amazon employees, direct Amazon employees, to be unionized. The mayor has the ability right now to pull the deal based on those two answers. Yes or no? Could he do it?
The mayor has the authority to make whatever decisions he wants at any given time.
So that's
He is a
yes.
big supporter of this transaction and also a big supporter of immigrant rights. From the very outset of the Trump administration, the mayor has been pushing back in every single way to demonstrate that we are committed to keeping immigrants in our city and continuing our history as a sanctuary city where immigrants can feel safe.
I'm not disputing any of that, James,
Okay.
and I'm not attacking that. All I'm saying is that if Amazon is working with ICE and supplying them with facial recognition technology and other things that then make ICE's efforts much more successful in tracking down and harassing immigrants in this country, documented or undocumented, that is wrong. That is wrong. Even if it's legal, it's immoral. Because I heard Mr. Hausman say before that if they come to the conclusion that someone they're working with or someone that the company is selling technology to is violating people's rights, that they would then cancel the contract. But there are things that are legal in this country today that are immoral when it comes to immigrants. That is not a good enough answer. So I want to say that I believe, James, that the mayor could today revoke this deal because, and I heard him say that when this all was arranged, maybe he wasn't fully as aware of ICE's work and the allegations made with Amazon.
And he's also said he's very concerned about it and needs a conversation with the company to discuss it further. And we are absolutely concerned about it. We share your concerns.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So then will you say today that if the mayor comes to understand that Amazon does work with ICE and is working with ICE, that you will then revoke the deal, knowing now what you know?
I don't know we have any facts about what's actually happening.
Because they
And
won't say.
I think the mayor's going to be discussing that with the company directly. I don't want to engage in hypotheticals. Ultimately, it's his decision how to proceed. And
So the
right now,
train
he
is
believes in the job opportunity.
If the mayor is going to have a conversation with Jeff Bezos about whether or not Amazon is working with ICE, shouldn't that conversation happen now and not as this deal goes further and further down the train? What are we waiting?
Absolutely.
There is so much that you are getting, and there is so little that you are giving. The fact that you are coming here today after all of this, 2 months of just getting crushed, I believe, rightfully so on this deal, you come with 30 jobs for the people in public housing. Meanwhile, there are several thousand people living within the Queensbridge houses alone. And you are just not listening. You are just not hearing us. You are spending more to mail those garbage mailers all over the city of New York than you are on the people of Queensbridge right now. It is absolutely outrageous what you are doing. You are saying that you are coming to listen, and then you are going to act. But what you're really doing is hiring high-powered public relations firms who are telling you that if you just mail enough of this crap out, that somehow it's going to get better. But it's not going to get better, not because of the mailers or not because of the mailers. It's because of what you're doing here and how little you're offering, how much you're taking, and how wrong this deal is. Are you equally proud to be a part of an effort to crush unions?
Councilmember, we are not. That is not an accurate representation. We have great paying jobs. We respect an employee's right to choose or to not join a union. We are very proud of that direct connection we have. The goal that you are trying to achieve is good jobs, not low-paying jobs. We pay $17 to $23 an hour in Staten Island. Your goal is to have not dead-end jobs, but jobs with room for advanced growth opportunities.
Mr. Hausman,
We provide those with
respect,
our career choice education programs. And your goal is also to provide jobs that provide great benefits, and we do that with our day one health care and our generous parental leave. I'm very proud of the jobs that we're creating, Councilman.
With all due respect, you just categorized what I want. You said you want, and then you rattled off a series of jobs. Let me tell you a little bit about what I want when it comes to jobs. I want good-paying union jobs at all levels. Don't make it seem like it's an either and or situation. Like, you have a decided corporate ethos. You have a decidedly very clear corporate culture. You are very proud to come here today and say that no Amazon employees are members of a labor union. I believe that is fundamentally wrong. Given how big you are, given how much you're growing all the time, you are part of the problem, because you are increasing the pool of workers who are not unionized.
I, too, am absolutely incensed by your insensitivity when it comes to this town, this very proud, strong union town. So my first question to you, and they're coming from some of my constituents, and I'm really happy about this. Amazon has a long history of union busting and unsafe workplaces. There was a death at the Joliet warehouse in 2017 after Amazon delayed calling the ambulance. Given the public outrage created by Amazon, one of the richest companies in the U.S., accessing billions of dollars in tax breaks, and that over $1 billion of that will come from New York City's as of right programs, would you consider our subsidy system broken?
Just to go back for a moment, I want to point out there's no question that the concerns about small businesses are very real, but that's not just about Amazon. The economy is changing globally, and small businesses are adapting, and we're excited to have Amazon here in the city to help the small businesses on the ground in Long Island City get on the platform and also receive customers.
It's very tough for me to support this, given the fact that all we're really asking you to do, from the speaker on down, the chairman, Councilman Van Bramer, and Councilwoman Adams, is just to stay neutral. It pains me that I can't get that out of you. No one else has been able to get that out of you. There's no guarantee that your workers would agree to join a union. And I just want to leave you with that. You've already given your answer, but I hope you'll take that back to the powers that be.
While I respect and appreciate the commitment to higher education and even to the high schools, as somebody who's a father of 6 children, I understand that it doesn't begin there. You know, this sustainable pipeline for education and pipeline to these high-wage jobs really begins in elementary and junior high school, and creating a curriculum that will be supportive of putting New Yorkers and our students into that pipeline. I haven't heard a real solid message for doing that, who you've worked with the DOE to get that done, and what the actual figure of expense or resources from Amazon, what's the actual number, numerical commitment to this education pipeline?
You know, I'm just getting very sick and tired of EDC, corporations, developers. You know, they come in here, you testify before this body, you tout this very divide and conquer method of working with New Yorkers in a very positive way. And I'm watching this as a chair of zoning and franchising, where you're pitting unions against unions to cut a deal.
This meeting is adjourned at 1:12 in the afternoon.